To understand the world of cheese, we start at the mozzarella gateway. Mozzarella ushers you into the world of fresh cheese. By fresh, I don't mean not spoiled. I mean very young, rindless, high moisture, extremely perishable cheeses. Talking flavor in cheese is a touchy thing. I mean, it can quickly feel either pretentious or totally foreign. A lot of our perception of flavor actually comes from our sense of smell, which is why food can remind us of dirt or old socks or grass or other stuff that most of us aren't eating regularly. The cheeses in the mozzarella gateway are primarily going to taste like milk. That's why all those words are highlighted in the lactic section of the wheel. So lactic just means milk. What does milk taste like? It depends on the animal that it comes from. Cow milk tends to be sweeter, like cream or butter. Goat milk starts to introduce tang. Think buttermilk or creme fraiche, plus citrusy fruit flavors. Sheep milk often has a pronounced grassy flavor, kind of like the whiff of a newly mown lawn. Then there's salt. A little bit is like cheese that's been dipped in salt water. Moderate salt is like a good sprinkling on your food, and intense salt comes from brine, cheeses that are actually soaked in heavily salted water and absorb that through the entire cheese. If you think about flavor on a scale of 1 to 10, the flavor spectrum that you're going to find in the mozzarella gateway starts here. A plain old approachable 1 is going to be fresh mozzarella, made of cow milk, relatively low in salt. It's sweet and mild. Other fresh cow's milk cheeses, like ricotta or burrata, actually have an even more intense sweetness than mozzarella does. In the case of ricotta, it's actually cooked, so all the milk sugars really concentrate. The flavor is deeper and more intense, but still sweet and super approachable. Then a classic fresh goat cheese, or chèvre. So think about the flavors of plain yogurt or sour cream, tangy, but goat cheese has more discernible citrusy notes, a lemony flavor in particular that's going to make your mouth water. Then on the most extreme end of the flavor spectrum in the mozzarella gateway, we're going to wind up with a classic feta. So traditional feta made in Greece is made of sheep milk and goat milk. It's kind of animal-y, and it's not a flavor a lot of us are used to, which makes it seem more intense. The other thing about a cheese like feta is that it's brined. So while these cheeses have a little bit of salt added to the cheese, feta is actually submerged in heavily salted water and is basically pickled. So you get this 1-2 flavor punch of sheep milk and goat milk plus intense salt. That's the flavor spectrum you're going to encounter here. You'll notice there's a huge range of potential texture in the mozzarella gateway. So fresh cheeses can run the gamut from being sort of springy, stretchy, doughy in texture, like mozzarella, something that melts really well, by the way, to a more crumbly, not particularly meltable texture like you'll find in a fresh chèvre, to a very wet, chunky texture like you'll find in a feta. So don't expect there to be a commonality of texture. There will, however, be a commonality of several other things. So the first is that none of the cheeses in the mozzarella gateway, no fresh cheeses, have a rind. There's no distinction between the inside and the outside of the cheese. The second thing is that these are extremely high moisture cheeses. They're wet cheeses, they're young cheeses. They have the shortest shelf life of any style of cheese out there. The third thing that's particularly true in the United States is that all of the cheeses in the mozzarella gateway are going to be made of pasteurized milk. That means the milk was heat treated prior to cheese making, and the reason that we do that is because in the US there's a law that any cheese that's aged for less than 60 days must be made of pasteurized milk. In this case, everything on the board in front of me. And then finally, they're traditionally used as ingredient cheeses. So think about caprese salad, mozzarella with tomato and basil, or roasted beets and crumbled goat cheese, or Greek salad where you're combining red onion and black Kalamata olives with chunks of feta. So these are less likely to be cheeses you're gonna serve on a cheese board, very likely to be cheeses that you're gonna cook with. And all of the classic cuisines of Europe and the United States, South America, Mexico, Southeast Asia, they all have a fresh cheese in there somewhere.